You are tuned in live at lunch on KRFC with K. We're broadcasting from the Ginger Baker Studio in the Music District in lovely Old Town Fort Collins. Stream us on krfc.org. Watch live at lunch on KRFC RadioVision on YouTube. Hit subscribe. Subscribe to our new Live at Lunch podcast wherever you are listening to podcasts. Now, what we're all have been waiting for, today's artists. Now, these artists are one of Fort Collins' newest and grooviest of bands. They bring not only the funkadelic, they bring out the jazz, and they also have that fusion of sounds. So please join me as we welcome the Orobeat. Yes, that was Orobeat live at lunch on KRFC. Good stuff, y'all. Good stuff.
Thanks.
So I have to ask, what is that one? What was that one called?
Can you not?
Can you not?
Can you not? Yeah, sort of inspired by a real tune.
Thelonious Monk's.
Wish you wouldn't.
Hope you will.
Well, you need. You needn't.
Well, you needn't.
There it is. Well, you needn't. It starts with that same 2 chords for the A section, and then when I was speed dating musicians for this band, I just made a bunch of flashcards of chord charts, and this was one of them, and it has morphed into this song. So,
well, I could tell you that we definitely went on some different experimental planes. I was down for it all. That was awesome. So I'm super excited because, we got Jessie over here on the bass. You're kind of, tearing it up over there. We got Dennis on the drums. So check it out. I love that. I was just like, gotta love that. And then Greg, you do a lot of things for our station. But one of the things that's amazing about you also play the electric guitar. How about that? That is awesome. And, we cannot forget Sarah over here, who just, I don't know, like you get a flute in a band. First of all, a flute in a band? Yes, please. Yes, please. But the way that you get into your flute, it's just, oh my goodness, just absolutely amazing. I would love to know a little bit more about, like, kind of how this band has come together, like we went on this 10-minute ride, which was absolutely amazing. No lyrics, but it just seemed like a great collaboration. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Sure. The origins of the band started with KRFC, actually. I had made a studio album a year ago, so we are 1 year old. We look really old for one, but but we're mature. And the music director at the station had said, "Do you want to play the Magic Rat with our monthly gig?" And I was like, "Yes, but I need a band." And so I was speed dating a bunch of musicians to put this band together for 2 months out to do this gig, and that's how I found Dennis. And serendipitously, Jessie, who I had seen on a Live at Lunch, had just contacted me out of the blue and said, "Hey, you want to make music?" And I said, "Yes." "Do you want to play some funk music?" And Jessie said, "Yes." And then as we had done a trio thing, then Dennis had said, "I play with this flautist. She's kind of rad." And then Sarah showed up, and it's like, "Oh, I've seen Sarah before." So it just sort of, the band coalesced really nicely.
Sarah is rad.
She brings things that only Sarah can bring, and that's really cool.
That's awesome. So I guess one of the things that I'm always curious about with bands is, like, that introduction into music, right? For me, it was like 3rd grade, right? Yes, it was 3rd grade. Being on a choir production, I was just like, I love singing, right? But what is it for you all?
Wow. You want to start?
Yeah, I come from a family of musicians, and my mother played bassoon. I don't think I told you all that. No. And she also played marimba, which was very cool. She learned to play marimba in Chicago, downtown Chicago, this really cool music building. And her sister, my aunt, also played marimba. And so it just started, I think, from the womb. Music was part of the family, and I'm just so grateful for that. And I expressed an interest in playing flute when I was probably 4 or 5. I had seen on Sesame Street the man with the golden flute, James Galway, who has 5 or 6 gold bar flutes. Super expensive, amazing. I fell in love. And so I told my mom, I didn't know the name of the instrument. It's like, "Mom, can I play the hoodle hoo?" I called it the hoodle hoo. And as soon as I was able, I started playing flute. I think I was 9 years old in elementary school. And from then on, it was like, that was my passion, my heart, my love. I also play piano and sing and do other things, but music has been my lifeblood. Yeah. So, yeah.
Gotta love that. How about you, Jessie?
So my parents were music appreciators. My mom would play guitar and sing to me. My dad had a lot of records, Beatles and stuff I can remember from early on. And then in 6th grade, the junior high band came through, and I remember we had seen a film strip earlier that day, and in the film strip it went through the instruments of the symphony, and mentioned that the clarinet had the timbre closest to that of the human voice, and I thought, well, that's cool. I can latch onto that factoid. And but when the orchestra came, the little kids weren't allowed to play the wind instruments. Sharing wind instruments, valves and reeds and such. So that caught my eye because it's enormous, and I like to non-conform. So I chose the bass. I started taking lessons right then, and that's how it happened.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Also, like a lifeblood, has certainly played a big role in most of the pivotal moments of my life. The fact that I get to play music, it's really helped.
Mm-hmm.
Similar story. I was taking martial arts and was like, this isn't for me. And my parents said you have to do a thing. And I said, well, the thing I want to do is play guitar. And so we got lessons, and I said, I want to play electric guitar. And my mom said, well, learn to play the acoustic guitar for a year, and then we'll talk. And so I did that. And now it's been decades after that, and I'm still playing, and it's just a source of joy.
Yeah.
You can't stop once it gets you. I think Leo Kottke once said in an interview, even if I don't get paid, I'll keep doing this, and I agree with him.
Yeah. And Dennis, do you have like a favorite sound that you got there for us?
You mean on the kit?
Yeah.
Probably this whole percussion rack right there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
How did you start?
Family.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, family musicians.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you gotta love that.
Lifeblood for all of us.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, what are you gonna play for us next? What are you guys gonna play for us next?
This is a Greg original, and he recorded it before he met any of us, I think. Is that right?
Are we talking about?
Mind Bloom?
Mind blow.
Yeah, that one was off that LP that I sent here, and then they offered me a gig. So yeah,
that's like a dream come true.
Yeah, that never happens, but it's one of those magic things in life. When it does fall in your lap, you say yes.
I like to think so too.
Yes, you should, if you can make it happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the tune.
You want to start it? Just lay down some drums.
1, 2.
Orobeat. You can watch them live at lunch on KRFC RadioVision on YouTube. Remember, hit subscribe. Amazing. What? Oh my goodness. And y'all only been together for how long?
1 year.
Whoa,
Happy birthday, Orobeat. Happy birthday.
Feliz cumpleaños a nosotros.
Orobeat. So I have to ask, so this is an evolution. Like you guys, first of all, come together as a group to create the sounds y'all created. That takes a lot of dedication, and it's just so fun watching you perform. I could tell that you guys are digging it. So tell me more about this. Tell us more about this. Yeah.
The evolution of the sound?
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Well, we started as kind of a jazz Latin thing, and anyone else who wants to jump in, please do. But we've kind of been edging towards becoming a jam band, and I, for years, have been like a hardcore punk rocker. You can't tell. But jam bands were a big no-no in my world, but we just have a lot of fun playing music, and we have a lot of fun playing really unstructured music. One of the things we do at a lot of our live shows is, play songs we've never heard before. And so that, fundamentally is just jamming. But we're kind of easing into that. And, easing into it might be a strong word since we just played 2 10-minute songs or something like that. But, that's sort of where we're heading. And I think we're having a lot of fun with it. But what do you all think?
Well, for me, Dennis really pushes me.
All of us.
I can't speak for all of you, but pushes me to go into that learning space.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite. I never want to be in the band to just play the bass part. I know some people like that, and I guess it's good. There's different kinds of people in the world.
There are. You definitely seem like you have some more than just, the bass line going on over there. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope so.
And I would say that we are all really great communicators, and that's what, whether it's eyes or, you'll see us do the head just to return to the melody lines. We'll call things out. That's what jazz musicians do and improv musicians do, and that's how they do it successfully. So it's about communicating really well with each other and just having grace for that, and also being willing. We are all willing souls to experiment. Yeah. Not everybody is willing to experiment and go off the page.
True.
And I will say, for me, playing with this improv jazz jam, fusion, funk is a dream come true. Yeah. It's something I've experienced a few times in my life, and I'm like, please come back to me. Please come back to me. And here it is with Orobeat, and something I just cherish and lets my heart flourish. So thank you. Thanks to this amazing band, and thanks to KRFC too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I want to I started playing in this bluegrass band 13 years ago. It's more of a party bluegrass band. And as a bass player, bluegrass does not feed my soul. So, but it's so much fun. We have a lot of fun. Yeah. But psychedelic funk is what's in here. And a few years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, I got another band, and that's awesome too, but it's not psychedelic funk, And so I'm so happy. I love all the music I get to make, but I'm so happy to be in here playing stuff that is feels like it resonates from deep within.
Mm-hmm. It definitely looks like that. So when you are creating things, sometimes just when you get together, how does it start? What's that process? Someone just lays a beat and then someone lays on. I was so curious. As someone who is a music enthusiast, I'm always how in the world do you do this? Do you make it come from thin air?
Usually, I just start playing something on the bass, and it grows from there. So sculpting from thin air.
Yeah, I think it's kind of everybody's listening and adding a piece and trying to add. It's like a paint by numbers. We just don't know where the numbers go yet. And so we're kind of putting down patches and filling them in as they go. And it's one of the special things about music is it's this linear thing that has a beginning, middle, and end. And we try and find that out before we've actually played the song.
And it's also a lot about just how we're feeling, the mood, the weather. Yeah, and
true.
What's so cool about the collaboration between Dennis and Jesse is you'll set this very cool groove and vibe, and then we're like, oh, we're gonna go there.
Yeah.
So we get to do that together, and it's just pretty rad.
Yeah.
I picture like a train laying down tracks in front of it as it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that Wile E. Coyote cartoon.
Right.
Less comic, but yeah, sure, whatever works for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. And I could definitely tell. I could definitely tell the work that you all do, which is really awesome. One of the things that I am curious though, you have like this mascot, right? Just like I've seen it on a couple of albums. I was like, so tell us a little bit about this like unofficial mascot.
Yeah, I didn't know we had a mascot till today. So.
It might not be a mascot.
Now our official mascot. Maybe.
So the first albums I put out before we were a band and I was just making noises in my studio was this album that has a capybara on the cover that's just sitting in the water up to about its nose, chilling out because it's hot outside. And so the album's called Too Cool. And it's just got a whole bunch of kind of Latinish, funkish things on it. And one of the early shows we played at 830 North, their graphic designer keyed on that and just slapped a capybara on the poster for that show. And so yeah, it's been following us around. And there was a kid's book I read as a little boy called Cappy Boppy, which was a cautionary tale about why you should never have wild animals as pets. And this family gets a capybara for a pet, and it destroys their living room. And then they have to figure out how to put it somewhere else after it takes over their swimming pool. But I've just loved them. They're giant rodents, and I like rodents.
Rodents of unusual size.
Yes, yeah. For those of you who don't know what a capybara is, watch The Princess Bride, and it'll give you a good cue. But that's the backstory for it. It's one of those things in life that's just sort of an accident, but it's working for us so
happy
far.
little accidents.
Yeah.
So now you talked a little bit there about some of the influence of the music. I'm very curious. Like now that you all have come together, you're different people, different styles. What seems to influence what kind of sound you all are creating? Because we haven't finished the creation. We're still creating, right?
Yeah.
Can I just say you should look at our text threads? We're sharing songs all the time, like way out there and way far away, and picking things out that are just like we're learning every day. I feel like a baby every day in this awesome way. But you go, Greg.
I agree. I think it came from a place for me. Like I had a jazz trio 10 years ago that did similar music to this, and like we had a stack of flashcards, and we just lay out flashcards and make a song from that. But this band is in that same vein of experimentation, but everybody just brings their own influences to it. And so, I mean, bands that have done that for me have been like Medeski, Martin and Wood, and Bill Frisell, and a bunch of players in this same kind of jazz jam space. But,
Carl Denson.
Carl Denson, yeah. We all went to see Carl Denson as a band, which was pretty cool.
Amazing.
But everybody's bringing their own pieces, and I think that's what's cool about it is we don't know, like, one day Jesse rips out something that's like punk rock, and like Dennis is always pulling out just like magic sounds out of this trio, go-go bells and such. That's half the fun. Like I never know where we're going. Like someone will just like grab the wheel of the bus as we're playing and like, we're going this way. And I'm like, here we go. And so I think that's the magic.
Magic carpet ride.
That is the magic. Well, we're going to play another song here, but before we do, I want to just give a shout out to our Live at Lunch staff and our volunteers who, if they were not taking their time, this would not be possible. So we always want to give our thanks and appreciation. So first of all, we have our audio team with Colton Boening back behind the scenes, which is awesome, just supporting in a lot of different capacities. Very awesome person. Then on video and audio, we have Reed today, which is absolutely awesome. Appreciate you, Reed. And then bringing I would call it the ease into the space. Our video, Eric Delano, who is also absolutely amazing. I definitely appreciate these guys. So, all right. What do you got next for us,
Thank you,
team?
y'all.
Yeah, what do you got next for us?
All right, so we're gonna make something up, and and then we're going to see what happens, because we're going to try to go from this made-up thing into something that Greg made up a long time ago, we've played before. So one thing we've never played before or heard before, moving into something we have. That's what we're going to try to do. We've never tried to do this before. So
I believe in you. We got this.
We're aiming towards a song called Dark Cold Days, I think, right?
yeah, so
Okay.
it's going to start with this made-up thing I'm titling A Moving Spirit.
Thank you for tuning in with KRFC on Live at Lunch. You can stream this here on YouTube, podcast, and we are very, very thankful of all the amazing sounds that just came out of that. Like, Woo! You just made it happen.
Thanks for having us.
Here
this was a lot of fun.
We accidentally played a third song.
So, no worries. So I have to ask, this, you guys are on a journey, obviously, which is amazing. I love to see it in real time. So,
thanks.
What's next, and how can we stay connected?
Good question. We have a website, Orobeat.com. We have an Instagram that we post shows and stuff to, and we have a Facebook. And
we have a YouTube channel.
We do have a YouTube channel.
There's
a couple
have a
of
YouTube
our
channel. That's awesome.
Demo videos up there, so you can see what we do. Although these are going to look better than what we did there, but that's because we got Eric Delano on this one. But
we have purple black curtains.
We have purple black curtains. But those are the places to catch us. I sometimes put up our shows on Spotify when we've got that, but the website and the Instagram and the Facebook are the place to go. I believe Orobeat Music is the Facebook and the Instagram, but I think we are the only Orobeat on either of those platforms, so search for that.
On the planet.
Yeah. I didn't even ask that song. We're going to have to hold that. Not ask that song. Ask that question. I'm going to have to hold that for next time. I guess real quickly, where's the name come from?
It was one of the few URLs that wasn't taken, and some of the influences of the project were like Afrobeat music and Afro-Caribbean music, and so I'm hoping it sounds as good as gold. So we've got the Oro and the beat, and we put it together. So that's the dream, but I leave it up to you all to decide.
Yeah, well, we're loving it. And we appreciate that you guys spent your time here with us at the Ginger Baker Studio at Live at Lunch. So what song are we going to close out our time with today? What are we going to do?
This is our most difficult song. Greg wrote it, and I guess he wrote them all. So I
don't know. We all
except
wrote
for that one I made up. Yeah. It's called Applejack, and yeah, that's about all there is to it. Our mission is to get you dancing, and to have that feedback of joy. So, thank you all. Thank you, KRFC. Thank you, Kay.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and Reed and Eric and Colton.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a blast.
Yeah, we appreciate y'all. All right, let's do it.